Being a perfectionist can actually ruin your life, and you're actually neglecting it in order to just like survive in this world. But deep down, you know that that's not your true self. And so, in this video, I am going to talk about how to fix this perfectionism syndrome and actually fix that problem, as well as your OCD. So, step number one is actually to be aware of your perfectionist behavior. And so, this can actually come out as like the impulses in your lives. It can come out through different aspects in your life, such as through your work or through your relationship, or maybe in your day-to-day lives. And I'm just gonna give an example of myself. So every time I want to go to bed, right, I need to have this like specific position and for my blanket. And so every time I'm about to sleep, I have to like adjust it into my liking, right? Or not, I will feel that like pressure in myself, in my body, and I will feel scared to like continue and move on with the next action that I'm about to do, like let's say turning off the lights or brushing my teeth or whatever. So my blanket, it needs to be like, if you picture a bed, right, and then the blanket needs to be like outside of the bed, like like covering the outside of the bed, the mattress part, like what's that under the bed, right? It needs to cover that outside of the bed. And every time I don't do that, I always get this feeling of, I'm always afraid to step into the next action. I'm always afraid. It's like it feels threatening to me, right? It feels like something is wrong in my life. It feels like I can't complete or overcome the next step of my life that I have to do, or overcome any step of my life. So I have to do that work first, and it goes to extreme because of it. And another example would be, I'm driving a car, right? And every time I drive a car, if you know that there's like a rear view, on like so you can see the window, like the back window, right? You can see the behind the car through the window. That's the rear view, right? The rear mirror, right? The mirror rear, or whatever it is. And so I have to like make it aligned so that the rear view needs to be aligned with the back window. Like it needs to be perfectly aligned, like that. Like I'm talking like extreme aligned, right? The line there, it needs to be like, if you picture the rear view, right? It's like rectangle sort of like color, right? And so that needs to be perfectly aligned with the shape, right? And the lines and the curves of the sides as well, and the edges of the back window, in order for me to like actually see where I'm going, right? In order for me to be cautious about it. And that, even those small things, that's being a perfectionist, right? Which leads to having OCD, right? And also another thing, let's say my books, I have to make it align, right? Well, this is the irony. Back there, you see my books there? If I can point it, right there, right? I mean, my microphone is connected to my phone, but then like the books there, it's like clearly aligned, like diagonal. If you see the edges, it's aligned diagonal with the edges of the table. And so that is also actually a mistake. I'm like a hypocrite. I'm talking about being a perfectionist, right? Being anti-perfectionist, and I'm actually expressing my perfectionist behavior right over there, literally behind me. And that's fine. That, well, it's for the video, right? I'm showing what I want to show in the video, and so I put it there and I place it there because I want to, not because it's, I'm being a perfectionist and it goes to extreme. Yes, there's other things that I'm being perfectionist about, but not for this one, because this is for the video. It can also come out in your relationship, right? These behaviors, these impulses can come out in your relationship. One of the example of that is your love or your romantic relationship, and that can actually go through if you're with your partner. If you're in an argument or something, or just like normal day-to-day lives with your partner, it will sabotage your life, because you can express your perfectionism through different ways. One of the ways is actually being a people pleaser, right? A people pleaser. If you know being a people pleaser is actually pleasing someone, don't have boundaries just so you can make that someone else happy, right? And also being a nice guy. And being a nice guy, I'm not saying like just throw out a tantrum to people and abuse them. No, I'm not saying like that. That's actually also the dark side of your shadow. I'm talking about here being a nice guy, which means like being a people pleaser, the ability to actually say no to things, and the ability to have boundaries in the relationship. Boundaries for yourself, right? Boundaries about, well, plans and all that, about communicating, and also boundaries about your own self-worth. Like, right? You can't have your partner just like lashing out on you for no reason. You have to have boundaries. You have to tell the partner to actually don't lash out on me like that. I feel that's not right in this relationship. That's not going to happen. Do you want me to lash out to you back if you were me? Of course no, right? So you don't want to go into the extreme of just being a tough guy and just like lashing out as well, nor you want to have like no boundaries at all. You want to have boundaries, right? And you want to be able to say no to people. And so, like, let's say you're in an argument with a girl, right? With your partner, with your wife, and you're a nice guy and you're a people pleaser. What you're gonna do is that you're gonna please her, you're gonna serve her everything you can to make her happy, because if you don't, then you will feel threatened. And so when you feel threatened, like let's say you're in an argument and you actually like, give her something, right? You actually try your best to not make mistakes because you're a people pleaser, because you're a perfectionist, right? A perfectionist doesn't want to make mistake, both in details and with people. And so when you don't want to make mistakes with people and then you make mistakes, that feels threatening to you, right? They don't know that, only us. We know ourselves. And so what do you feel when you feel threatened? One thing I felt was that my chest actually tightens. I feel that tension in my chest, not allowing me to breathe, actually deep breathing, and actually know how to respond to that. No, I didn't get that back then. But I breathe in a shallow way. I just like, like my heart is like beating, and then I feel that chest tightening because my nervous system tells me not to make mistakes. Right? Do you feel that way as well? And if you do, then that's not your fault. And you're not a perfectionist. That's not your true self. You have to know that. What is the effect of being a perfectionist after you feel threatened? Because after you feel threatened, what are you going to do, right? Have you heard of passive aggressive? Right? You're passive at first and then you feel aggressive. Passive aggressive behavior in a relationship is basically like what I'm talking about right now. You are being a people pleaser. You're trying to please the woman. You're trying to please your wife. And then you get into an argument and your nervous system tells you that you're not supposed to make a mistake. And so you feel small. You feel like you're not worth for this. You're not worth for her. You're not worth for yourself. You don't deserve to be a man. And so what do you do? Right? Your ego, it comes out to protect your shadow, to protect your belief that if you make mistakes, you're small. That belief isn't true at first, right? And then your ego is just trying to protect you. How? Well, it's going to defend that belief, right? It's actually going to try to retain that belief in order to survive in this world, in order for you to actually not feel small and not be exposed and not be seen as vulnerable, because then you will feel weak if you're vulnerable and being exposed because of that. And then your ego will actually try to defend. That's when the aggressive word comes out. And then you try to control her. You try to manipulate, right? The most straightforward thing is that you get into an argument and then you try to guilt trip her for being wrong. And then so you're going to say like, oh, you know what? You actually did this. Now I feel like this, right? Because you did this, I feel I cried last night. Like what? Right? Because you did this, I feel sad and it hurts me. Right? You try your best to defend your own self-pride. You try your best to defend your self-worth because you don't know your worth. You know that your worth, it comes from not making mistakes, while that's actually not true. And so this is a problem that can sabotage your relationship very, very much. If this cycle goes on for days, for months, you're not going to ever find true love through relationships and through your wife. And so things can end up the other way around. And you already know what's the answer to that. And so step number 2 is actually you have to know that our impulses / triggers is actually expressed in order for us to survive in the world, not wanting to feel bad about ourselves and don't want to feel threatened even if it ruins our relationship with people, right? Or even if it sabotages us in our lives. We have to know that. We have to recognize that. Because if we don't, we will go through life unconsciously. We will go through life without the awareness that our shadows are actually trying to protect. Our shadows is actually sabotaging our lives, and our ego mask will actually trying to protect that. And it's bad, right? Do you want to sabotage your relationship? No. God doesn't want to sabotage your relationship. Your body is like owning you. Your flesh, your muscle, your nervous system is owning you. Do you actually want to be a perfectionist? Answer that question and think it to yourself. Do you actually want to become a perfectionist yourself? And of course, I feel like the answer is no, right? Why would you want to be a perfectionist? Why would you want to be someone that cares about all the details, OCD and all that stuff? You don't want to have that, right? You want to be free. Because being a perfectionist is actually a struggle. Now, that's not a thing for like being minimal, being a minimalist, you know. A minimalist, I think, in my opinion, is basically just having stuff around that is significant to your life and putting the stuff that is unnecessary, like let's say you're in a room, right? Being a minimalist, meaning you just put stuff outside of the room that is significant in your life, that brings up memories, like maybe an old painting of your father, like I have in the back, if you can see that beside the book. Or maybe your piano, right? I have a sword there on top of a piano. That serves a purpose in my life. That serves a meaning. Now maybe I'm being a minimalist, I don't know, but it doesn't really have a correlation with being a perfectionist. And also, being a perfectionist doesn't mean that you just become messy. You just don't want to become messy, like throughout your own self. You still want to stay hygienic, of course. Brush your teeth, take a shower. You don't want to not do that. You don't want to be like not clean just because of, believing that perfectionism is bad, right? Perfectionism is bad, but you don't want to go extreme. That's the point. You don't want to go extreme until you have this like OCD in you, right? You don't want to place your blanket in a way that it actually threatens you if you don't. You don't want to just check the rear view of the car and actually try to align it with the back window. If not, then you feel threatened and you have this like habit or behavior to always check on it every time you want to drive or whatever. That's ruining your life. What happens if you crash just for the sake of looking over if the little lines is aligned with the back mirror, right? Like that's stupid, right? We don't want that to happen in our life. And so what do we do with that? Is actually, which we go to the point number 3, is actually trace the root. We want to trace the root. We want to know where it is coming from. We want to know where this perfectionism syndrome is actually coming from. Now for me, yeah, it comes from, now this work is, what I'm preaching is basically how to know where the root comes from. And usually the core wound, it either comes from the father or the mother wound. And so if we're linking back to where mine comes from my mother wound. Now talking about my mother, so, well, my dad passed away, if you already know the story. More on that on another video. But mother is the source of love, compassion, and life, right? She gave birth to us. And so she can have a wound herself as well. Her mother can give her a wound that can affect us in our generation today. What would that look like? Is at first, my mother, she criticizes me. I'm 17 now, but back then, during my childhood days, I'm reaching to adolescence now, she would criticize things that I've done, like to an extreme. Like, let's say if I just made a small mistake on washing the dishes, knowing where to put it, and sort of where I would place the dishes after I wash it with the soap. Those little things, it can shape how you feel and how you are today. It can affect your story today. She would be controlling, and so she would like take care of me fully, right? She would take care of me fully and make sure that I don't do any mistake before she released me into life, into the possible challenges in life, right? And my dad is the clear opposite of that. And actually, my dad would be criticized a lot actually by my mom, because she doesn't only put it to me, but she puts it to my dad and maybe to my sister as well. But I'm not sure about that because my sister is not reaching adolescence yet. But the point is that my mom was controlling. She criticizes me every little small detail, especially in kitchen work. I have to, like, let's say I wash the dishes, right? And there's still a little bit of that, that dirt in the in one of the plates. And so she would turn to me and say, like, why? Like, okay, I know you did this, but then, like, you forget this missing piece. You forget this missing dirt in this part of the plate. And so even that feels like a small thing. Even if that seems like it's a small thing, it affects me who I am today, and I feel it. I feel it because my chest tightens. I feel it because now I don't want to make a single mistake, even a percentage, right? Even I don't want to make a 0.0001% mistake in my life. I want my life to be 100% planned and good. That's why I turned into the nice guy and a people pleaser, which I applied it and I expressed it in a negative way towards relationships with my partner, hopefully not with my future wife, and hopefully you also don't. And so you have to trace the root. Where does it come from? For most people, it comes from the mother wound, right? It can also come from the father wound, but based on my own experience, mine comes from the mother wound. Mine comes from my mother, where she would criticize me every little small details, even if I did it right, she would praise me for it, she would compliment me for it, but still have sort of like a feedback that she needs me to know. An ideal way of doing it maybe is that she still praised me in that time, but in a later time, after maybe a couple hours after, she can start by, telling me what to do in a way that is more not attacking to me, not trying to make me feel wrong. Because now that every single mistake I do, I felt wrong. I didn't feel like I'm worth it. I don't feel like I belong in this life. That can also be a part of the fatherhood as well. The do I have what it takes question that I take to external validation. But that's for another video. Know the root. Where does it come from, right? What's the wound here? And so you have to think, how does that affect my belief? What do I believe now? I mean, I've previously mentioned that I felt like if I make a mistake, even a little, my life is ruined and I won't receive love. That's bad, right? Well, that's not bad for now, but that's bad if you think about it. That's gonna run in your life unconsciously. That's gonna ruin your life. That's gonna sabotage your life with that belief. And then I try my hardest not to make mistake in every aspect of my life. And so perhaps you as well, right? We don't want to be the perfectionists like others, right? They are perfectionists, and maybe they also put it out to YouTube. Being a perfectionist is fun, or being a minimalist is fun. It improves our lives. No. We try to maximize everything in our relationship. No, that's for the other people. If they say that, we don't. We're trying to get rid of this perfectionism syndrome in our life. And so, point number 4 is that in order for us to actually resolve this problem, it's to replace the belief with truth. Now, I'm going to read it out here. And what I want you to do is actually close your eyes and then just breathe into this paragraph that I'm about to read. And then open your eyes and just release and just breathe again and just listen to the rest of the video. Close your eyes now. I hope you are. I don't have to be perfect, and I make mistakes. I know that. But that won't affect my worth or love that I get from someone. I don't have to feel threatened when I make mistakes because they still love me as a person. And I'm not weak. God knows my worth. God loves me. God knows that I'm just human and I make mistakes. And if I make mistakes, God still loves me. Everyone else still loves me. You may open your eyes now. I hope that makes you feel something in a way, because it did to me, and so I journaled about it, and I bring that wound into God. And so step number 5 is actually, I want you to know that God is wild. He puts us in his life full of struggles, full of adventures, full of tests that we have to undergo, full of the battles against the devil, against the evil, our bodies, our nervous system, and the world that influenced us to do this, right? And so we must embody imperfection, because we are just humans, and humans make mistakes. And so if I were to give you an action step, it would look something like this. First, you actually want to be an anti-perfectionist in your habits, right, in your day-to-day lives. And what does that look like is actually like, let's say you just let's say you want to put your clothes in a certain way, And if it looks messy, you just leave it. You have to have the willpower to just leave it that way, right? Have the willpower to be an imperfectionist. Have the willpower to do things not perfect. Not to be scared if you make mistakes in your relationships. Don't defend yourself if you're wrong. Just tell the truth. I'm wrong and you're right. Don't align whatever rear view like me in your car. Have the willpower to just leave it like that and rely and surrender all those imperfections to God. You want to ask God in order for you to step into the unknown. We need to have the fear of the unknown, but we have to overcome it, right? Don't just plan everything, because God is mysterious. God puts us in a life full of tests and struggles and battles with the evil, battles with our shadows that we're not meant to have, that we're meant to integrate in our lives. And don't feel small every time you make a mistake, because God doesn't see you as someone small. God sees you as this beautiful creation that He made in our lives. Now, if you want to know more about the effect on how being a nice guy or people pleaser through being a perfectionist can actually affect our day-to-day lives, especially in relationships, and one of them is guilt tripping. And so I made a video about how to stop this guilt tripping thing, the only reason you actually guilt trip, and it's somewhere here. I'm gonna link it in this video right on top here. And yeah, that's it for today. I'll see you in another video. Goodbye.